The scent of lemon pledge still reminds me of invisibility. I was 17 when I realized silence had a weight, and it had always been draped across my shoulders like an heirloom I never asked to inherit. The first time I walked into that house after 2 years away wearing a tailored coat and shoes that didn't creak. No one asked how I got there. They assumed the bus as always, but that night I didn't take the bus. I parked my Rolls Royce 2 blocks down. Let them think nothing had changed. Let them stay unprepared. I wanted their eyes to widen their mouths to fall open, not because I needed their recognition, but because I deserved their discomfort. They erased me from their story. Now they would watch mine unfold on my terms. My name is Lauren Mitchell. I'm 27. And by the time they saw me again, it was too late for them to pretend they never looked away in the first place. But to understand the cost of that moment, you have to know what it means to grow up in a house where you're seen last, if at all. When you grow up as the extra child, unplanned, unnoticed, unloved, you learn quickly that silence is safer than asking for anything. The scent of lemon pledge lingered in the air as I tiptoed past the hallway lined with framed photos. Brandon in his varsity jersey, Dylan with a silver trumpet, Emily in a pink tutu mid-pirouette, me. A corner of my 7th grade spelling bee photo peeked out from behind a plastic fern. The frame was cracked. Mom's voice floated in from the kitchen. Emily has ballet at 4. Make sure her leotard is dry. I clutched my math syllabus fingers, twitching. Hey, Mom, for AP Calc, we need a graphing calculator. Mr. Diaz says. She didn't look up. Ask your brother. Dylan had one last year. I found it in Dylan's drawer, nestled between old gum wrappers and a crumpled football playbook. The screen was scratched. Several buttons stuck, one missing entirely. I ran my thumb along the side, pressing the power button. Nothing. Dead. At school the next day, I borrowed Lizzie's calculator during lunch. She didn't mind. She was used to it. They cheered when Brandon made varsity. When I won the state math championship, Mom asked if I could help Emily study. It was a Saturday when I brought the trophy home. I placed it carefully on the kitchen counter. Gold curved my name etched with first place, South Carolina State Math Olympiad. I waited. Dad walked in talking on the phone about hedge fund returns. Brandon trailed behind him munching Doritos. Mom passed me with a basket of laundry. That's nice, she murmured, barely glancing. Can you help Emily with algebra? She has a test Monday. I stood still as they moved around me like I was furniture. The trophy gleamed, reflecting light they wouldn't see. That night, Emily lay sprawled across my bed, flipping flashcards. I wish I was good at math like you, she said, not looking up. I didn't answer. I turned off the lights early, lay there in the dark, fists clenched under the covers. My chest burned, not loud like fire, but deep like something eroding quietly. At school on Monday, Ms. Cortez pulled me aside. Lauren, she said gently, your essay about invisibility, it was stunning. I blinked. You ever think about applying for early college programs? I hadn't. I didn't even know how. That evening, I sat on the floor of my closet door, closed knees pulled to my chest. My fingers hovered over the keypad of Dad's old flip phone. My thumb trembled. I dialed. 1 ring. 2. Hello, Aunt Vivian. My voice cracked. It's Lauren. A pause. Then softness. Sweetheart, I need help. I didn't explain. I didn't have to. I'll help you, sweetheart, Aunt Vivian said. Not because they won't, but because you deserve someone who will. I cried after she hung up, not because of what she said, but because of how quickly she knew. That night, I placed the trophy on my desk. It was golden and gleaming, just like me. Except no one in this house noted. My parents said I'd figure it out. I did. And they never asked how. The first night in the dorm, the silence startled me. Not the absence of sound, but of tension. No voices reminding me to be useful. No glances weighed with comparison. Just the low hum of air conditioning and the soft rustle of pages turning. I unpacked slowly. 1 suitcase, a stack of books, a photo of Aunt Vivian tucked inside an envelope. No family pictures, no going-away hugs. At orientation, they asked who drove us to campus. I lied, said Aunt Vivian. Really, I took a Greyhound backpack wedged between my feet, sandwich wrapped in foil on my lap. My work-study job at the sandwich shop started the next week. Walter, the manager, had a crooked smile and a habit of humming Otis Redding while restocking lettuce. He handed me a name tag and pointed to the sink. I nodded. Ever worked before he asked? Not officially. He didn't press. I worked 4 nights a week, sometimes 5. Took morning classes, crammed assignments in during breaks. Tutored freshmen in calculus for extra cash. Learned how to sleep light and dream less. One night after closing, Walter handed me a sandwich extra turkey. No charge. You're a ghost, Mitchell, he said. Show up. Speak up. You're better than they made you believe. I blinked. Who? He shrugged. Whoever taught you to disappear. I didn't answer. Every dollar I earned, I tracked. I didn't spend unless necessary. Slowly, the account grew. A cheap laptop, bus passes. One semester, I even covered full tuition without aid. With every penny I saved, I bought back a slice of my independence and left behind another piece of that house. Thanksgiving came. I didn't go home. Said I had shifts. I did. But mostly I just didn't want to sit at a table where my presence was still invisible. Still, I looked. On Facebook, Emily posted a photo, long table gleaming cutlery Brandon carving turkey. 3 wine glasses, 3 place cards, 1 space left conspicuously blank. Mine. I shut the laptop. A week later, Natalie messaged me for the first time in years. Cousin on Dad's side. Same family tree, same bruises in different places. Proud of you, she wrote. They never saw me either. I stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. Finally, thank you. We kept it simple. She asked about my classes. I asked about her job. Then one night, there are things you should know about the family trust. Not here. One day, I didn't push. Spring semester, I entered an investment pitch competition, scraped together a concept app-based tutoring for rural students. Pitched it. Won. Internship in New York City paid. When the email arrived, I stared at it for 5 full minutes. Then smiled. Not wide, not giddy. Just steady. I got the internship. I didn't tell my family. Not because they'd be proud, because they'd act like it didn't matter. That night, I walked home from the shop under a steady drizzle. My shoes soaked through, but I didn't care. I'd never seen New York. I'd never imagined I could. My phone buzzed. Emily. Coming home for Thanksgiving, Mom wants a full family photo. I stared at the screen, then closed it. Not yet. I walked back into that house like a ghost returning to its burial ground. The walls hadn't changed, but I had. The smell hit first cinnamon potpourri, masking the distinct sharpness of old wood and control. The same throw pillows with embroidered initials on the couch, the same smug family portrait staring down from the walls. Except now, my picture graduation photo suit sharp and smile forced hung in a hallway corner. Crooked. Mom opened the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You look professional. Dad hovered behind her, nodding. Traffic okay? I offered a polite smile. Smooth. They said I was independent. What they meant, you're not our problem anymore. Thanksgiving was supposed to be about gratitude, but in this house, it was a performance. The table was set for 10. Crystal glasses, turkey carved to symmetrical perfection, name cards in gold script. Mine was at the far end next to a ficus. Emily wore Chanel. Dylan's girlfriend talked about her art gallery debut in Savannah. Brandon's wife had just launched a baby food line with biodegradable packaging. I wore a fitted black dress, minimal jewelry, and heels that clicked softly against the tile. My coat was cashmere. No one noticed. Or they did and decided not to ask. I nodded at Great Aunt Joanne, seated at the center like a queen on borrowed time. Her eyes were cloudy but sharp where it counted. She raised a bony hand. Lauren. I leaned down to kiss her cheek. Happy Thanksgiving, Aunt Jo. You look expensive, she said, eyes twinkling. About time. Dinner began with prayers, platitudes, and wine. The siblings took turns passing around praise and updates. Dylan had made senior architect. Brandon just returned from a transformational hiking trip in Patagonia. Emily got engaged to a dentist. Applause toasts, curated laughter. No one asked me anything. I poured myself a second glass of wine. Mom glanced down the table. Lauren, you've been so quiet. Still in New York? I nodded. Yes. Brandon smirked. Bet she's got some finance hustle going on. Startup unicorns, crypto, all that. Dylan snorted. Probably dating a hedge fund guy. I laughed softly. Actually, no. Silence rolled in. Thick, uninvited. Then Great Aunt Joanne raised her fork midair. What about you, Lauren? What do you do? All heads turned. I sipped my wine. I'm in finance. Goldman and Brooke. Silence thick and absolute. Brandon blinked. Emily's mouth twitched. Mom's hand froze mid-reach for the stuffing. I let the words settle. No embellishments, no apologies. Dad cleared his throat. That's impressive. I nodded again, unfazed. It pays the bills. Emily tried to laugh. Well, someone had to do something serious. I smiled with my eyes only. Guess I pulled the short straw. Great Aunt Joanne chuckled. Smart girl. That's how you win. Quietly. I raised my glass toward her, grateful. A beat passed. The room shifted. I smiled. Excuse me, just realized I parked too far. I'll go pull my car around. And just like that, I got up and they followed. Still taking the bus, Brandon smirked. I took a sip of water, leaned back, and smiled. Checkmate was 3 moves away. The table dimmed with dusk. Candles flickered like nervous heartbeats. The turkey had grown cold, but the dig stayed hot and fresh. Emily set down her glass. Your dress is so, understated Lauren, very minimalist chic. Quiet luxury, right? Jessica Brandon's fiancé leaned in. Minimalist is in, especially in New York. You don't want to attract too much attention on the subway. Laughter, tight rehearsed, polite daggers. I folded my napkin calmly. That's true. Quiet is often safest. Mom sipped her wine. You always were the subtle one. Dylan reached for the gravy. Lauren was the practical kid. Remember when she brought her own utensils to school after again? Louder this time. My eyes flicked to Great Aunt Joanne. She didn't laugh. She watched. Brandon wiped his mouth. So still taking the bus, his tone was syrup slick, the kind that dares you to break. I took another sip of water, letting the silence stretch like an archer drawing back the final shot. I didn't blink, just tilted my head. Excuse me, I said smoothly. I parked a little far. I'll move the car closer. I stood steady and effortless, placing my napkin on the table's edge like a signature on the final page. The room rustled. Chairs creaked. Someone coughed. No one said a word. As I made my way to the front door, I could feel them rising behind me. They thought they were coming to witness something pitiful. A slow walk to the sidewalk, maybe a taxi hailed from the curb, or worse, me checking a bus schedule. The night air bit through silk. Crisp southern. I walked down the driveway, slowly letting my heels click deliberate truths into the pavement. They followed. I reached the edge of the driveway and tapped the key fob. The Rolls-Royce Spectre chirped once, soft, sharp, elegant. The black finish shimmered under the porch lights. Sleek. Imposing. Utterly unmissable. Behind me, a collective intake of breath, like the air had been sucked out of the family tree. Brandon froze. Emily's jaw went slack. Jessica clutched her coat tighter. Dylan whispered something no one answered. I turned around slowly. My hand rested on the door handle. Carl's voice broke first. You're joking. No, I said simply. Mom blinked. Where did you... I smiled. This old thing, silence again. I slid into the leather seat, the cabin welcoming me like it had been waiting. I rolled down the window halfway. The apartment costs more. I rolled up the window. They're frozen on the lawn, fading in my rearview mirror. The next morning, my inbox was full. Not investment queries. just ghosts. The first subject line blinked up at me. So proud of you sent at 1:23 a.m. from Emily. The body was even thinner than the title. You've come so far. Let's reconnect soon. No mention of the car, the dinner, the years I ate silence in the shadows of her recitals. Brandon's came next. That car was unreal. You've got great taste. Then a second email 2 hours later, BTW Jess and I are budgeting for the wedding. Would love your input. Input. Not invitation, not apology. Denise, of course, sent a more poetic variation, you've always marched to your own drum. We're all just realizing what a beautiful rhythm it is. Would be so nice to talk soon. Maybe even spend a little time together this Christmas. I poured a cup of espresso and let it go cold. My penthouse stretched around me, muted marble chrome edges and floor-to-ceiling windows that didn't reflect anything from Charleston. I was alone, but for the first time, it didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like design. My phone buzzed again. Natalie, check your email. Sent you something encrypted. Might sting. Inside the attachment, a scan of the Mitchell Family Trust. My name I knew would be buried in footnotes hidden between Brandon's stocks and Emily's future estate plans. But it wasn't. It wasn't anywhere. Emily, 30%, Brandon, 30%, Dylan, 30%, remaining 10% to be held in trust for any future grandchildren. I was not a grandchild. I was not a child. I was not. I stared at the screen as if it would adjust itself. That maybe my name had faded or cracked digitally, but the erasure was deliberate, clean. My phone rang. Aunt Vivian. Told you, sweetheart. You always had to make your own way. Now you see why. Don't let them shake you off balance now, not when you've already stepped out of the ring. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just nodded even though she couldn't see me. Later that day, a message from Carl slid in like it was wearing a suit and a smile. Subject, family and milestones. Body, your success is such a family pride. Maybe you'd want to help us celebrate your siblings' big moments. Brandon's wedding's coming up. Emily might get engaged soon, too. It would mean a lot to show unity. Love, Dad. Unity. A word they dusted off like the good china when company came. I stared at his email for a long time before typing 2 lines. Let's talk. Coffee's on me. Bring Mom. And bring honesty. They brought charm. I brought counsel. Carl held the door with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Denise kissed the air near my cheek, her perfume as deliberate as her posture. Upright, matronly, over-rehearsed. The table I had reserved was set beside the windows, sunlight spilling across polished oak. Rachel Baines was already seated at the table beside ours, dressed like neutrality in a taupe blazer, her eyes behind mirrored lenses. She offered a near-invisible nod. Such a beautiful place, Denise said, smoothing her napkin. You always had good taste. Thank you. I kept my voice even uninterested in dancing. Carl cleared his throat. Lauren, before anything else? We're proud. You've come a long way. We know we made mistakes, but we're family. And family deserves transparency, I offered. He smiled tightly. We let the silence hang. Denise reached into her bag, pulling out a folded piece of stationery paper, cream cursive. She slid it across the table like it might carry its own grace. We've outlined a few of the costs for Brandon's wedding, she said gently. Venue deposit, catering. It would mean so much to him. And to us. I didn't touch the paper. I didn't blink. I received a trust document last week, I said. It was thorough. Carl's jaw tensed. It confirmed a lot. Not just about your financial priorities, but about your moral ones. Denise tried to speak, but I raised a hand. I'm not angry. That would imply I still expect something from you. Rachel stood up then, walking over a folder in hand. She placed it gently beside the untouched cappuccino I had ordered for decorum. This is a formal statement of disassociation, I said, reviewed and executed by legal counsel. It removes me from any implied financial or emotional obligation to the Mitchell family. Carl blinked. Lauren. You omitted me, I said quietly. From dinners, from decisions, from your legacy. I'm simply confirming what you already practiced. Denise's voice cracked. But we love you too late. Rachel said calmly, the documents are notarized. You're free to review them. I stood, tucked the chair back in with precision. You erased me from your plans. Let me return the favor. They didn't follow me this time. I stepped out into the Manhattan cold. The air was brisk, salted with distant taxis and roasted chestnuts. My phone buzzed. Emily, I didn't know. Please call. I blocked the number. Outside, the cold air tastes like freedom. They mocked me at dinner. But what I drove away in wasn't just a car. It was everything they said I'd never be. The girl they ignored became the woman they couldn't afford to overlook. Years of silence sharpened into clarity, and the door they once closed behind her now slammed shut with finality by her hand. Justice delayed but deliberate carved a clean line between legacy and liability. When injustice is met with unwavering courage, the final verdict can echo through a lifetime. And sometimes the softest goodbyes carry the loudest truths.